Thanks for getting up early and making it out here to come listen to us talk about advertising. We've been working on the Chevy account here, specifically Corvette, which we'll be sharing with you in a little bit here today. Did anybody catch the Super Bowl last weekend by any chance? Yeah? The average Super Bowl spot actually costs an average of $126,000 a second. Today, the average 30-second spot was an average of $4 million up from last year, which was ballpark $3.5 million. So it's creeping up, and there's a lot of real flash and dazzle, and sometimes not a whole lot of substance. I'm usually not one to rip on other people's work because I've certainly done my share of not so great stuff. But there was good stuff and bad stuff, and in particular, there was a couple of beer spots that were pretty atrocious. There was one Beck's Black Sapphire spot with this black goldfish floating in the air, singing "No Diggity" to it, and it was like, I want my 30 seconds back. So anyway. The advertising arena, especially in the Super Bowl, is chock full of really high budget stuff that's kind of low quality sometimes. So we've kind of learned that just because you have a big budget and a lot of money to spend doesn't mean that the work's going to be great. So that's kind of what we're dealing with these days, and kind of what we experienced in sort of revealing the Corvette and working on our latest campaign. So I'll let Jason kind of take you through that story.
I'll do my best. I, for one, did not watch the Super Bowl, not one portion of it, especially the ads, for all of the reasons that Kim already talked about. For me, everything starts to feel like too over the top. And it almost feels like it's more about how much money you can throw at something in order to come up with something good. So like Kim said, when we first started this project, there were so many different things that were potentially on the table. And it was almost like we had to weed through all of the nonsense to actually get to something that we liked and cared about. So I'm just gonna talk a little bit about what actually happened. Hopefully I don't bore you too much. So when we first, this project almost kind of happened on accident. And we originally were working on the 60th anniversary for Corvette. And that was on the previous generation. For you guys that aren't familiar with cars or could care less about cars, the previous Corvette was good. I mean, it's an iconic car and people around the world love it. But there was a lot of criticism and a lot of baggage that came along with it. But we were celebrating the 60th anniversary of this car. So there was a lot of tension between the pros and the cons of this vehicle. And then that turned into a really good idea that we had. Of course, we think all of our ideas are good. Unlike Kim, I actually do bash ideas. I bash other people's work all the time. Some of my friends in here actually know that. But we had a really good idea, and we took it to the client, and they were like, well, actually, there's a new Corvette coming. So it's like, oh, okay. So maybe we should start thinking about that. Yeah, you should probably start thinking about that. And so we started thinking about it, and we had a lot of more good ideas, or things that we felt were good ideas. And one day, just like that, the gears completely changed, and we were tasked with coming up with this I don't even know what to call it, but it was like this grand thing that was supposed to happen during probably the Super Bowl in 2 minutes. So everyone that, you guys have probably all seen the Chrysler commercial and Eminem took back Detroit and we were all, that whole thing. And so, I mean, that was kind of like in the top of everyone's mind, and so now we had to deal with that. And it's like, yeah, we want a 2-minute thing, money, don't worry about it, go. That was the brief. And so for months, a good chunk of our lives in 2000, what year is this? 2012, we spent thinking about this 2-minute idea that was gonna cost all of this money, and it was up to us. And by the way, you only see us two, but there's a team behind us. I mean, there's more to the team than just us two.
Teams on teams.
A lot of teams. A lot of teams. And so we spent all of this time thinking about this huge production and this huge message and this huge story that we wanted to tell about this car we had not seen yet. We don't know anything about, and that went on for
They wouldn't show us the car for like 4 months. It was like the top secret.
Oh, hey, come in. Yeah, so we never actually saw the product. We didn't know what we were talking about, but we knew we had to talk about it for 2 minutes live.
No pressure.
Yeah, so I think we went through maybe about 50 or so, probably more than that, different ideas. And I think real quick, trying to tie that into money, we learned that toward the end of that, we kind of learned that we were working ass backwards. We were trying to live up to this budget that didn't even exist. There was no budget. There was no budget for this grand idea, and we really, really suffered. We kind of burned ourselves out.
Trying to throw money at it.
Trying to throw money at a problem. And that problem was we needed to, this is both us internally and the client speaking, we need to change the perception of this car. But we haven't seen it yet. But don't worry about that. We need to really change the perception. And I think we kind of took that after being burnt out and just said, we're trying too hard. This is way too hard. Typically, I'm sorry if I'm preaching to the choir, I don't know how much you guys know about car launches, but typically they kind of happen in 2 phases. First, you show the world the car, and it's really that simple. Here's my thing, I hope you like it. After that, there's what we call the launch of it, and that's when we cram all of our messaging down your throat, all of our supermodels and spokespersons and taglines and all of the pretty glittery stuff, the car porn, all of that stuff. That's where we really tell the story. We were not at that stage. We were so far ahead of that. We were just trying to show you the car. And so we really had to come back to that and stop caring about, by the way, everyone had an opinion about this particular vehicle. We had to stop caring. We had to just say, you know what, we should just really do what we think feels right and really keep it simple. And we learned that the car was actually launching January 13th. And we said, why not just say that? Why not just tell people when it's coming out? And that's really we looked a lot at the platform that movies use. It's pretty simple. Iron Man 3. May 3rd or whenever, and it's like you remember that. And so we I hate to say came up with, because we just kind of fell on it, 1/13/13, and we made the type look pretty, or tried to, I think it looked, tried to, and we kind of ran with that. Along with that, we wanted to tell just the story of the car, mostly because we didn't know what that was. And we thought that would be something that was interesting. So we kind of, it was a little twofold. There was wanting to tell the story of the car and then portraying the car as a piece of art. And that was something that was never done before. So I think every decision that we made from this point was about that. It was about this very minimal approach, this very honest and very, which is always hard to say in advertising, but this very honest and very natural, organic piece of art. So we were up with a few challenges. It was probably the most top secret thing I've ever worked on, for sure. There were people being fired left and right for leaking things. Yet we still couldn't show the car. But we had to talk about it months out before it was actually revealed. And so what we wanted to do was film the process, what these guys are actually doing. So kind of how our collaboration works is we get key messages. This car should be about this thing, and this thing, and this thing. And it's mostly Kim's job. Her job is the hardest one. She has to distill it down to something that people actually love and care about. I just make it look pretty. I make it pink or whatever. And so we came up, we kind of had this thought of showing you 4 phases of what this car is going through, transformation, and how it's not the same. We had to achieve that first by showing you something that you had never seen before, or you wouldn't expect from this brand, and say something that you wouldn't expect from this brand. And I think both of those things were pretty bold.
Yeah, Corvette has been so steeped in heritage for so long that it was kind of traipsing into the territory of, middle of the country, sort of rural ambition car. So they wanted to sort of push their brand out, push it out to the coast, push it out to these sort of younger, more wired, more plugged in people. They wanted to make the Corvette cool again. And, when it's sort of got the baggage of all the heritage and all the back in the day and all the burnouts and, it was kind of a daunting task. I think it went pretty well. But, that this car is a lot of people's baby. And so it was
It's everybody's baby.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking like GM, the people who built it, the people who designed it, the people who named it.
There were about 100 art directors and 300 writers on this.
Yeah, within
project.
GM and within, us and the other vendors that we work for, everyone had something to say. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone thought something else was important. How do you please all those people? And how do you just get to the point to be like, hey, this car is different. It's not the same old Corvette. It's not the same old, flash and dazzle. It's a new day. And we were actually introducing the Corvette Stingray, which made it even more special, but also even more tied to the past. So we had the problem of do something different, but it's the same, but it's different, but it's a Stingray. So,
But don't tell them that yet.
yeah, but don't tell them that. We didn't say the word Stingray. We didn't write it down. We didn't for months. It's still like I still stutter when I say Stingray because
See?
they put the fear in us, man. They put the fear in us. It was really scary. But that being said, we'll get to the point and we'll show our first pre-teaser before we started sort of letting a little more and more information out about this car in the months leading up to the Winter 1313 reveal.
We were already done with an idea, and that idea was 4 teasers for 4 full-length videos that took you behind the scenes and to show you the making of the car. This one came at the 25th hour. PR wants to announce that the car is coming. Can you just put something together and tell everybody that we are actually making this car officially? And so that's what we use to do that. That takes us right into partnerships. A lot of the things that we wanted to do just creatively? Well, first, I think the topic of money is an interesting topic in this setting, because I don't know if you guys agree with me, but creatives, I don't care about money. I'm not like, how much of a budget do we have? I don't care. Here's our idea. Chad, producer, can you make this thing happen? Thank you, Chad, wherever you are. But we would not have been able to achieve any of the ideas, from the aesthetic to the number of videos, without having the right partners. And that's just talking about the videos. After going through this, process that was months long of trying to come up with some big Super Bowl thing, we realized we don't need to do that, especially with this car. We just need to do a bunch of little things right. We need to really be specific with why we're doing what we're doing. And on top of that, keep it true to the aesthetic and the voice that we set out to do. So partnerships actually became a really, really, really critical and big role. Just to kind of give you the backstory, trying to achieve this quality of work, and I don't usually pat myself on the back, but this is like, the quality of this work I was actually impressed with, and I hate everything I do. We were able to, what we achieved should have been a lot more difficult than it was. The first thing was, okay, we have an idea, we developed this treatment, our team developed this treatment. Now we have to get people to actually shoot it. We have to get people to actually produce it. And at that time, I had just come off of a huge production where I had not a good experience, but it was like with people, whose name you would know. They wouldn't want to do something like this because of what it would take to actually be dedicated to it. Money is always the thing that's on the table. The people that we actually met with to shoot it did not care about money. So automatically, they already agreed with kind of the cause, really. It became more about the creative, and that doesn't always happen. So when it came time to shoot it, the producer kind of brought a few people onto the table. And it was a really tough decision because, all of these guys were great. But there was this one group where they walked into the room and these guys looked like a bunch of models. And I'm like, all right, so which one of you actually shoots? And they're like, no, we all do. I was like, no, really, you guys, they were wearing ties and it looked like they just hopped out of GQ. And they had this really great vibe about them. They already saw a treatment and they already had a vision. They already owned it instantly. So that was just really rewarding to sit there and have these guys embrace it's just an idea, not even caring about money, in their new company. These guys are called The Work. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're incredible. And we just started bouncing ideas. Oh yeah, myself and Kim wasn't there in this meeting, but me and the producer could have walked out of the room and they could have handled it. They started to, oh yeah, we can bring this camera and this, and what about a helicopter? And I'm like, Chad, we got money for a helicopter? But it didn't matter. The guy actually said, he probably doesn't want me to say, he's not here, but I'll say it anyway. He actually said, oh yeah, we're getting a helicopter. I don't care how much it costs, we'll eat it. And that's the thing that you don't want to say to the producer. But luckily, this guy's a good guy. But it was for the work. And that already put us off to a good start. The other partnership, this actually happened, this was another happy accident. I think by this time, our team knew we were kind of on a roll within our own little group. We stopped caring about the rest of the world. And we knew what we wanted and we knew what felt right. And this partnership actually happened in passing. I don't know if anyone played video games, Gran Turismo? Yeah, you like it? I suck at this game, but there was There's another creative here. He's a video game nut. I'm not. And we were talking about this project just in the hallway. He's like, oh yeah, dude, why don't you just put the car in the game? I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And we had never thought of that, but it felt right. And I'll talk about why just after I make this point. We could not show the car in any way. And we knew that we wanted to tell the story about the testing of the car. When they test top secret cars, it's always camouflaged. You probably see it driving around the road. You don't know what the car looks like. We wanted to own that. And so it became this like very mysterious, very cryptic kind of thing, ominous thing. And so the idea turned into, went over to our strategy team. And like, well, actually, this is the game that you want, GT, Gran Turismo 5, because it's a driver's game. People who play this game, it's not a game, they are real drivers. One of the engineers that actually tests the real car practices in the video game, which blew my mind when he told me. So this was a very deliberate partnership. And there were a lot of things that happened behind the scenes that really helped to get it off the ground.
And I mean, it was strategic as well because, again, getting back to who are we trying to reach, what are we trying to say? It took us back to getting in touch with those younger people, the more connected audience, people who are digitally savvy, playing games online, and can experience this virtual driving experience online before the car comes out. And if you look at this car up here, we pretty quietly dropped this car into GT5 and let people kind of figure it out. Oh, well, this is going to be the new Corvette. It was kind of like Corvette XXX. Because again, we couldn't say the word Stingray yet. But if you see these test cars, sometimes you can see them driving around here in Michigan because they test so many of them out there. But they'll have this black and white tripped out zebra paint on them. So it kind of creates an optical illusion that tricks your eye. So if you look at it driving by, you can't really tell where the lines are. You can't really see the shapes. And then on top of that, they pad it so that you can't tell the sculptural elements of the car. They put dummy headlights on it. They put this black padding, and then they'll just test it on the track. They'll test it on open roads. They have to. So that being said, we had to capture that, make it realistic, put it in a game, and let people get excited about it and actually test drive it before it even saw the light of day or was revealed this January. And that helped really create a lot of buzz. So we got ideas from all over the place, within the agency, throughout departments, that really made our own team a collaboration too. These teasers lived on the web, and basically we had 4 aspects of the car that we were charged with communicating and teasing in trailer form for the reveal and full format of the video trailers that would release post-reveal. So we did this series of 4, we're just gonna show you one, but 4 teaser videos all talking about a certain aspect of the car. Interior, exterior, engineering, and driving experience. I think this one is driving experience.
This one's interior.
So this one's interior? This one's interior. So we'll show you kind of one of these clips that we used to tease the car leading up to the 11313 reveal online.
The exterior excites you, it draws you in, but the interior is where you actually experience the car from. It's literally the connection that you have to the car, so it has to be perfect.
Continued our teaser phase until we built up and released a bit of the time at a time of sort of what this car was about in each aspect.
And the interior was probably the biggest story, because with the sports car, everyone assumes that it can perform, but is it comfortable? And in the past, Corvette was really getting dinged a lot with the interior. People were calling it crappy. There are videos of them doing all sorts of stuff. So we had to show this as a premium, luxurious brand from the inside out, which had never been done before. So again, for us, it was going back to not being so, how do you do that without being so over the top, beating you over the head with product specs and stuff like that? We had to make all of the crappy stuff look beautiful. And that was actually the fun part. We just went to where these guys made the interior, and we put a camera on them. The big story with this one was that it's handmade and hand stitched. So we want to show that process, and once you do that, it's like you automatically start to change the perception. We're going to show you that one of the videos that I am the most proud of it. But just to see that I don't read comments on when we release stuff. I don't read the comments or even look at it after we launch it. But I found myself kind of looking at some of the comments just because I was curious. But it's rewarding to know that you've taken this car that a lot of people are really ready to hang you if you mess it up, and to hear their responses.
That reaction from the client, the first round, showing that this last cut that we're about to show you really was priceless. That's kind of like why we do this. When you come up with a project, you come up with an idea, and you work with people who constantly just take the baton and run with it, and everyone's committed, and everyone's in, and everyone cares about it as much as you do, like, that's worth more than money. Money can't buy that.
Well, it's not really race inspired. That's what manufacturers say when they want to try to make a connection between a race car and a street car. Ours is the actual race technology brought from the track to the street.
This car is a new level of electronic integration. You don't feel like you're trying to drive to the car. You feel like the car is doing exactly what you want it to do. You can have the car you want when you want it. Today is a calibration day. We're taking thousands of channels of data, variables that are deep inside the software that allow all the electronic subsystems on the car to perform the way they need to.
We have a keen understanding of what the car does really well, what the car could do better, and then it's our job to take the advancements in the auto industry, and then how do we apply those technologies to make the whole experience with the car even better.
The key for the driving experience is going to be all of the new electronics in the car. Gen 3 MR, electronic power steering, electronic limited slip differential, performance traction management. The driver mode selector allows you to customize all the subsystems on the car for whatever road surface you find yourself on.
All these different systems historically have been controlled independently. ABS and traction control, stability systems, electronic power steering, adjustable shock absorbers.
You now have 5 driving modes that can personalize the car to do what you want it to do. Weather mode gives you a certain throttle response and changes your stability control and traction control. The eco mode gives you the ideal calibrations for fuel economy. The tour mode is great for driving around. Sport mode is good for a canyon road, and then track is great for a track mode where you don't want to turn off all your control systems.
Everything changes. The feel of the steering, the sound of the exhaust, the way the transmission shifts, the ride quality, the appearance of the IP, all that stuff changes instantaneously. So it's like a different car.
As soon as you spend any time in the car, you realize the differential in a car is more of a handling device than it is a tractive effort device. It's not about getting you going, it's about making the car turn the way you want it to.
And that's why we introduced electronic limited slip differential. This is a differential that can control the amount of torque that's transferred from one side of the car to the other side of the car.
It does many times per second, so it's always working to make the car do exactly what you want it to do. The benefit of the ELSD is the driver doesn't feel that. All the driver knows is the car feels right.
We did not start out thinking we were going to create a Stingray. We decided to try to make the best car we could, and then at the very end, we'd step back and say, is this worthy of the Stingray name? We've just recently elected that, yes, in fact, it's worthy of the name.
If you notice, there are quite a few helicopter shots in there. I was in there, and the cameraman actually got sick. We were doing some pretty wild stuff. But I think we should just open it to Q&A now. I think we could talk forever. I know I could. Yes.
Since our topic is money, right? Can you guys talk a little bit about when you have money, how smart it is to appropriate the money that you do have? And specifically, I'm thinking about the rumors that were circling around, right? That the Stingray was supposed to appear with Beyonce.
Oh, no, she didn't.
But for whatever reason, GM pulled it, and they said that that's because they can allocate their money to more appropriate places. So I was just wondering if you guys can comment a little bit about appropriating money incorrectly.
Well, really throughout this process, speaking for ourselves, we really tried to work smarter instead of throwing money at problems. We can't really speak to the specifics of the Super Bowl and the halftime show, but you know, throughout the course of the project, we really tried to be selective about what media we're using, what we're saying,
We were saying it too.
who we're saying it to, and the partners that help us bring that to life. Because again, it's not so much the money that you put into it, it's the effort and it's the heart and it's the thought that really makes it great. But as far as the other specifics, I think there were a number of reasons that we're not necessarily privy to.
Yeah. But I think to that point, I don't know if they had to do that with this car. It's really just a matter of making sure that you stay true to the voice and you're always talking to the audience that you said that is your audience.
As a writer, art director team, how do you guys plan the video stuff? I know you don't just write the words, you actually plan part of the scenes and how do you guys work together, put together a spot like that?
I think initially on the project of coming up with a broad level campaign, there's just a lot of conceptual thought that goes into it. So we'll work together coming up with distilling really what is the point? Like what at the end of the day is the point? Why are we doing this? Because you have to keep going, you have to keep asking why until you really get to the answer. Well, it's the new Stingray, we're revealing it. Why?
Yeah.
Why? And then you get down to the core of the message, or hopefully the truth, which is kind of a rare thing where we're like, yeah, you know, we're really legitimately saying the truth about the thing that we're selling. That is not always the case in advertising.
Yeah, and I think there were 3 writers on this project, and the thing about writers is that they want to tell every story, all of them. I want to tell all of the stories.
I just want to explain, man.
So I think there's a lot of us keeping each other honest. I mean, she wants to tell all of the stories. I want to show all of the shots. There's a lot of us keeping each other honest and trying to be concise.
Right.
These videos it's supposed to teach you about the car. That's the purpose. So with that is a very unappealing thing. I don't want to talk about the car. I just want to show you cool stuff that it does.
Right.
How do you take substance and make it
Interesting.
So we couldn't script that.
Right.
We didn't. I remember seeing a comment on YouTube where a guy was bashing the interior video. He's like, "Oh, the guy where he's throwing the cowhide on the table. They stole that from this video." It's like, no, we didn't, because I've never even seen this video. I wasn't one of the 300 other people that saw it. B, this was not a thing that we scripted. Going into these videos, we didn't know a lot about the process. We didn't know a lot of what took place at the facility. We just kind of had to. It was always on the fly, and the foundation of what we wanted to talk about was what we always had to stay true to. going into the unknown. We don't know what you guys are gonna do, but we know that craftsmanship is a big deal. What do you do here that illustrates that?
So throughout this process, we went on 8 or 9 shoots from Michigan to Atlanta. Us and our creative team and our producers, and we really tried to keep it as authentic and honest as possible. So we went to the location. We asked our subjects, our engineers, designers, what do you do here? Why do you do it? Go ahead and go about your work. And we tried to capture that as is. And then the audio that you're hearing is not scripted. Instead, it's myself or one of my writer partners interviewing these engineers and saying, what's that?
And
And
you'll talk for
trying
an
to
hour about
coax
it.
out. And sometimes when you're talking to engineers, it's not the same as talking to designers. They're like, according to my calculations, that kind of stuff. But just really getting the honest, what's the deal? What's the tension here? What problems are you having? What did it take to get here? And what is all this stuff in the under the hood that I don't know I'm looking at? So getting that and weaving into a story was really a collaborative effort between my writer team, the AD team, and our editors and producers and everyone who brought it together. It was really a big puzzle, so it was fun.
Do you think the significance of this car made it easier or harder from a project standpoint?
This project was way harder than it needed to be just because of how iconic it was. People that normally wouldn't have an opinion about a particular launch had an opinion.
But again, there's the whole aspect of, everyone's so invested between the agency, between GM and all of its facets. Everyone was protective of their baby. And it was, for me, it was scary because I was like, man, if we don't do this car that everyone cares about so much justice, they're gonna kill us. So there was kind of that aspect of there's expectation and there's, there are high standards and it was up to us to push it further. So that was a pretty intimidating task, but it was really fun and it was exciting and it was a great time.